Hey guys, welcome back to Eisenhart Archery and Outdoors. This time I've got a product review for you guys. This year, Noah and I are both running the Black Eagle Carnivores for hunting season. We're going to be running these arrows for our usual whitetail season here in New York State. We are also going to be running them for our mule deer hunt in Arizona this upcoming December. Just like all of our other builds, we're going to be running pin knocks for these hunting arrows. I'm using hot glue here to put my bushings in. We have a tendency of hitting our own arrows, and I'd much rather change out the bushing than have to replace the entire arrow. Once my bushings are in place, I use this knock tool to push on my knocks. Before I cut my arrows, I quick make sure that I like the length. The carbon on my arrow, I want just about an inch past the riser. This is a little longer than I would usually run for a 3D or target setup, but I want to make sure that I have enough clearance with my broadhead. I then use this tabletop sander to make sure the top of my arrows are flat. Recently, Ryan showed me this trick. You can take a silver ink pad and dab it on the end of your arrow. This way, I know I'm flattening out my arrow without taking off too much material. I'm using the stock inserts that come with the carnivores. This is a threaded insert that allows me to interchange my field tips and my broadheads. These are nice because I don't end up with a bulge or taper at the end of my arrow. And I can quickly throw on some field tips to get these sighted in. All right, it is the next day and I'm going to be fletching the carnivores. So I've got a whole setup here with all sorts of goodies. I'm going to be using a Bitzenberger fletching jig, and I will show you guys how I fletch my arrows. I've already got my first fletching on here, so all I do is turn this knob. The whole arrow rotates, and then we take our fletching and I throw it into the jig here. There's that red mark on the bottom where I just line up the bottom of the fletching as best I can. That's probably about 3/4 of an inch, which is what we run for all of our arrows just to keep it consistent. So I'm going to put on a decent amount of glue. I'm going to put a dot probably every 1/4 inch along the spine of the fletching. This is more glue than I see a lot of people use. A lot of people recommend trying to put on as little as you can, which of course that makes for a cleaner fletching job. But personally, I just run into the problem where my arrow doesn't really, or the fletching doesn't really adhere to the arrow otherwise. Like the ends will kind of pop up on you. So personally, I'd rather have a little bit more cleanup to do and really know that my fletching isn't going anywhere. And it's pretty simple. Just take a Q-tip and run it down the side of the fletching to pick up all that extra glue. And it's on there. So I'm going to be running a 4 fletch with a slight left offset, probably about a 2-degree offset when everything's said and done, just to give it a little bit of extra spin. Also running 4 fletchings. Noah and I are building very similar arrows for hunting season this year. We have a trip coming up in December. We're going to be out in the bush, and God forbid something happens. In a pinch, if we can use each other's arrows, that'll be very helpful. Now, sometimes when I'm gluing, I'll see the end of a fletching hasn't really stuck on as well as I'd like it to, so I just carefully push it back into place. And there she is. A straight left offset, but still a straight fletching job here with 4 fletchings, running Bohning X3s in a 2 1/4 inch length. And we're back at the shop to get these leveled out. I start by leveling out my arrow with my rest in the upright position, and I'm checking to make sure that the arrow is just at the bottom of the burger holes. Starting off, my arrow isn't quite level, so I need to adjust my rest. This is really simple with my Hamskea Trinity rest. I can micro adjust my height as well as my left and right. I also make sure to take the time to level out the axes on my sight. With a quick shot through the chrono, I'm clocking these arrows in at about 268 feet per second. Now right off the bat, I've got a pretty big tear in multiple directions. I've got a tail left and a tail low, so I'm going to take the time to move my rest until I get a clean tear. Typically, the better my paper tear, the easier time I'm going to have tuning my broadheads. This year, Noah and I are running B3's new Destruct 4 exoskeletal broadhead. These are a fixed blade broadhead, which we both prefer. I really like that they come in their own travel box and with a practice head. And so far, we've found that the practice head actually groups really well with the broadheads. All right, we're in the backyard now for the final step. We're gonna be sighting in these arrows. At the shop, I got them good to about 20 yards just so I don't blow anything up. And let's see how these sight in. I'm a little low and left, but that's really easy to adjust with the B3 Exact Competition Hunter sight. We are beyond stoked to run these this year for hunting season. We know these arrows are going to perform when it matters most.